welcome here, Romy, to our Cuba information meeting. Here's my lovely love of my life here, John. And I just want to go thanking you for coming to this information session. Some of you have already signed up for our wonderful retreat, journey and adventure, and others are here for information and are curious. So we're going to have all your questions answered. And I really wanted to go back to Cuba. When did I go? It's been several years. I think it's like more like over 6 years since I went. And Chelsea, whom I will introduce you to, was just talking about the differences that happened in the past, just the past couple of years. And so I'm looking forward to introducing her, and I'm going to introduce her last, but I just want to go around and I'll just kind of point to you and you can just say your name and maybe where you're calling from, if there's anything else you want to say to introduce yourself. All right, so I'm going to go to you, Cheryl.
Okay, I'm Cheryl. I'm calling from Plainsboro, New Jersey, and visiting Cuba is another destination on my bucket list.
Awesome. Welcome. And we have Noelle and Brian over there.
Hi. We're super excited, and we're excited that Brian's brother and sister-in-law are joining us on this trip.
Oh, that's great.
So exciting.
And we live in Cranberry, New Jersey, for those that don't know.
Awesome. I love it when families travel together. So awesome. I will go to you, Nikki.
Yes.
Oh, my buddy Nikki.
What do you want me to say?
Just say where you're calling from or anything else.
I'm calling from Eastern Pennsylvania.
Awesome. All right. We have Teresia.
Oh, calling from Lake Michigan, and originally from New Jersey, but now live in Florida and travel in an RV. This is the RV.
I love it. I want to be Teresia very soon. Kind of take a little trip around the world in an RV. Well, awesome. How about Kevin and Alyssa?
Yes, I am Brian's brother. This is my wife, Elisa. We're from Los Angeles. And yeah, I've never been to Cuba, so I'm kind of excited.
Awesome. How about you, Emily? Wait, Alyssa, do you want to say, hold on, Emily. Alyssa, you want to say hi?
No, hi.
Hi.
Welcome. Okay, Emily.
Hi, I'm here in Princeton, New Jersey, and I'm very excited to roam with Romy again. Some of my other Nikki, Noelle, and Cheryl. Nice to see your faces here.
Yeah, welcome. Welcome, Judy. Say hi.
Oh, where's Judy?
Hi, Judy.
Hey, John.
I don't see you, but I won't get to it.
Where are you?
Can you see me?
No. We can see you.
I can see.
Oh, okay. Hi. So I'm outside of Princeton in a little town called Robbinsville, New Jersey. And I wanted to find out more about the trip tonight. I haven't committed, but interested.
Excellent. Welcome, Judy. And Rebecca, are you able to say hello?
She's confused.
You're muted. And then that's Noelle's AI note taker, right? Yeah. And then Estefan, that's Chelsea, right? So Chelsea, you're next. Well,
no, I'm not Stefan. I don't know.
No, I know you're not Stefan, but I'm wondering, is Stefan your colleague?
Stefan is not my colleague.
Okay,
no,
well, it's
Stefan is my
hi,
son.
Stefan.
Oh, hi, Stefan. Oh,
Hi.
Welcome. Say hello.
Hi, I'm Stefan. I'm calling from Portland, Oregon. I am Nikki's son. She kind of invited me in, so just hoping to find out more about this, maybe have a family trip.
I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Welcome, welcome. All right, well, I will let Chelsea introduce herself. I've been introduced to her and she does amazing work helping people like me plan great trips around the world and as well as for individuals. So go ahead, Chelsea.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Chelsea Glass. I am currently in California, but I've spent the better part of the last 15 years living between Guatemala and then in the last 6 years, Cuba. I started operating tours in Cuba about 8 years ago, and 7 years ago, I met my now husband, who is in Cuba. He's from Cuba. He's here now, but we met in Cuba. So Cuba became not only a destination that I'm really passionate about working in, but also became kind of a second home for me. And most of my husband's family is still in Cuba, and we go there pretty frequently. So you can probably hear my daughters screaming in the background. I'm really excited. I'm here to answer any of the questions that you have in terms of what do you need to do in order to travel to Cuba legally as a US citizen. It's a lot easier than you think, but I know a lot of people have questions about that, as well as I'm happy to answer questions about what to expect, what to pack. So anything and everything that you need to know kind of from the logistical end of things, I'm here to answer your questions. And I'm really excited. This group already seems like it has a great energy, and I know that Romy has some really awesome things planned as well to just kind of put on top of all of the other activities we have planned for you to make this special really this trip really special and unique for you guys. So I'm excited.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so we started talking a little bit about Cuba itself and why it's just an amazing place, probably the most unique place we'll visit around this side of the Caribbean. And
Yes,
maybe
so
Chelsea,
Cuba's
you can also say
beautiful,
something.
obviously. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I will say you can also just kind of talk about why we're saying Caribbean and not Cuba in all our advertising as well.
Oh, yes, perfect. So I will touch on that second. First, I'm going to highlight all of the exciting, positive things about going to Cuba. It is a beautiful country. You're going to get to see some beautiful beaches, some incredible landscapes and viñales. There is absolutely stunning architecture. You will also see the results of the political and economic situation that Cuba has been in, and that results in being in Havana and seeing this beautiful, multiple 300-400-year-old building that's been really well maintained and restored. And right next to it, you will see a building that is essentially in ruins and in crumbles. And so just it's a very interesting place visually because there's such a range and such a juxtaposition, and there's so many different periods in Cuba's history that you can really see come to life in everything that you're going to experience there. So Cuba is beautiful. The people are very fun, very friendly. I don't know if people have been to maybe Mexico or Guatemala, where they're very, very friendly and kind of like super servicial. In Cuba, they're very friendly, but they're also very like kind of sassy. There's a lot of fun energy going there. They're on the Caribbean, so it's got a different kind of vibe to it that is really, really fun. Cubans are also incredibly innovative and inventive because they have to often make a lot out of very little. They come up with some of the craziest things, and you will see sitting on a balcony at any time of day or night in Old Havana and just watching what is happening on the streets of Havana is just really mind-blowing because you see things that you're unlikely to encounter anywhere else in the world. So Cuba is a wonderful place to visit. That said, right now, Cuba is actually experiencing a fairly high level of migration out of Cuba, and that has to do with the increasingly challenging economic situation that a lot of Cubans are feeling, as well as increased restriction in terms of the freedom of expression and the ability to own your own business and do these things in Cuba that had opened up a little bit earlier in around 2010 to 2016. And there's been a little bit of tightening again. So Cuba's in a really interesting period right now politically. It's nothing that will negatively impact your experience as travelers. And if anything, I think it's really amazing to hear stories from people. And so you're going to get to meet people in different parts of Cuba and hear stories and perspectives across a range of ages, political associations, ages, genders, all of this stuff. So you're going to get to hear a varied perspective from people in Cuba on the situation in Cuba, but you will find that the majority of people in Cuba right now want to see change in Cuba, or they want to look for other opportunities outside of Cuba. And then you've got these group of people who are staying by choice or by not, and who are trying to create some type of private sector within the overarching communist economy that exists on the island. So you'll get to meet people who are getting businesses off the ground in a country that less than 10 years ago, it was impossible to own your own business. And it's just really fascinating to see and hear about that and how they're doing it when they have such limited access to resources that a lot of us might really take for for granted. So I think that in addition to having fun and the music and the mojitos and the beautiful beaches, there's also a lot to experience. There's a lot to learn. And it's a place that, if nothing else, it just opens your mind and makes you think a lot. And you might not come to a concrete conclusion after 1 week in Cuba, but it will definitely get your wheels turning. And a lot of people find themselves returning because they want to understand more about this unique place. And as for why we are referring to Cuba as the Caribbean on some of the sign-up pages and things like that. So you can travel to Cuba as a US citizen legally. There are certain restrictions on what you are doing in order for your travel to be considered legal, and our itinerary is fully compliant with the support for the Cuban people category. That said, because of the relationships between Cuba and the United States and the embargo, a lot of US based payment platforms, which most of the payment platforms that exist down there, PayPal, Stripe, a lot of these things are either US based or they work with the US banks. And so they can get very sensitive if the word Cuba shows up on a transaction. And so to save you and us from any potential headaches, we just put the word Caribbean so that your bank isn't thinking that you're sending money to Fidel's cousins or something like that. So it's a little weird. I hope that one day that will be different and it will be easier for us to have a more cohesive experience for people signing up for Cuba trips. But unfortunately, that's been the best solution for us right now to avoid anybody from having issues.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions at right now for Chelsea or myself around what she just talked about?
You mentioned something about entrance into the country. I noticed on the to-do, it was a visa. How do we go about that?
Yes, wonderful. Luckily, it's much easier than most people think. Is everybody here traveling with a US passport? And if not, can you let me raise your hand if you're traveling with a non-US passport? Okay, everybody's traveling with a US passport. Was anybody in this group born in Cuba? I think the answer is no, but just checking. There's a weird rule. If you were born in Cuba and you left before a certain date, you have to do this extra step. Great. Everybody's process is going to be easy because you are US passport holders and you weren't born in Cuba. So for your visa, you can either buy it online ahead of time. And Romy, I believe, already has that link. And if not, I will make sure that she gets it out to you. You can buy it ahead of time online and it's mailed to your house. Or the other option is you can purchase it the day of travel. Now, typically you're going to buy it at the airport that is going directly into Havana. So in my case, if I'm flying from Sacramento to Cuba, there are no direct flights to Havana. I would have to have a layover most likely in Miami. And in Miami is where they're going to sell the Visa card. And they typically sell it at the gate. Or there might sometimes be a kiosk, like a little kiosk very close to the gate that says Cuba ready. But those last couple years when I've been going through Miami, it's just been right at the gate. You just go up and you say, hey, I need my tourist card / Visa card. The terms are interchangeable. You do not have to apply for this. You have to pay for it, of course, but you don't have to apply for it. There's no chance that they're going to say no. And it is essentially a piece of paper about this big, and it's the same thing on each half. And all you do is write in your name, your birth date, your passport number, and there might be something like the day your passport was, given and then expires. And you write that on both sides. And then when you are boarding your plane from Miami or wherever into Havana, they're going to ask to see that. But who really wants to see that is the immigration official when you get to Cuba. So when you get to Cuba, you're going to show them that. They're going to tear it off. They're going to keep one half, and then the other half they're going to give to you. And they're going to want to see that when you exit the country. So I would just keep it in your passport. Keep your passport safe, and just hold on to that until you depart. So yeah, you can buy it ahead of time online and have it mailed to your house, or you can buy it the day of travel at the airport.
This is Brian. I'm pretty sure you said it. When we went to Egypt like a year and a half ago, there was an opportunity to buy your visas in advance. It was kind of a pain in the rear. And in the end, when we got to Egypt, everybody else just bought. Half of us had visas and the other people got it done in 3 minutes. And I spent 3 hours working on it online. So I'm happy to do it at the airport as long as you're no, it's no problem.
So I personally always do it at the airport. For a really long time, I was living in Guatemala, and so it would have been difficult for me to get it mailed to Guatemala because mail's just not really a thing in Guatemala. So I would say you're fine doing it at the airport. But if you're a person who wants to get it done ahead of time for XYZ reason, the online process is not very complicated. It's like a third-party website. You put in your flight number, your name, your passport, they confirm it, and it's sent to you in the mail. But I'm more like you. I'm like, I'm just going to do a day of travel. So you should have no problem doing a day of travel. You're going to be flying out of New Jersey?
Yeah, but I don't think we have, when I looked, I didn't think we had direct flights either, so I
Yeah,
was gonna
it's
do a
from
flight from
Miami.
Miami.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have a direct flight from New Jersey. The one thing is, if the person who's checking you in at the airport isn't super well trained on Cuba, which can happen, the New Jersey airport should be pretty good just because you guys have such a large airport. But at smaller airports, we've had airline personnel who weren't aware that you could get the visa in Miami and kind of told our clients like, no, you need your visa. And it was always resolved by saying, no, look here on your website, but just don't be alarmed if an airport person says, oh, you need your visa. Advocate for yourself and say, no, I'm purchasing the visa through your airline at the airport, as your website says, because some of the smaller airports, the personnel just they're not trained, and the computer tells them, check for visa. So just a heads up, it has never happened to anybody in New Jersey area. So most of you, it sounds like, are flying out of that area. So you should be fine.
Is
Sorry to
there a
dominate.
direct flight? Oh, I'm sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I was gonna piggyback, but maybe I'm gonna ask the same question or say the same comment. The piggyback question is then with that is what time, I don't know if it's been decided what time we should be like arriving on that day. Cause Noelle and I were talking about actually going down to Miami a day or 2 days early, just to avoid the exchange problem, and B, because there's no reason not to spend another day or two in Miami because Miami is fun
Yeah.
for anybody else who wants to come. But we were going to get a flight out of Miami. I was going to get tickets soon because they just keep getting more expensive. So I didn't know if you or Romy say, hey, this is or if the group is going to vote and say, hey, we want to arrive at 9 a.m. or 2 p.m. or whatever, because it looks like American Airlines has like 6 or 8 flights or something like that on
Yeah,
Miami.
there's quite a few flights out of Miami. And I'll answer really quickly, and then Romy, if you have anything to add, feel free. We don't have like, you don't all need to arrive on the same flight. People can arrive on different flights. We would recommend arriving between like no later than 3 p.m., ideally even a little bit earlier, just so that you can get to Havana Vieja and get settled in, maybe take a shower, whatever you want to do before our first activity. If you arrive at 9 a.m. in the morning, there's a very good chance we can have your room ready for you based on the relationships we have with all of our casas. And the absolute worst case scenario, your room's not ready, your bags can safely be stored, grab some food. We have guides and team members available to hang out, show you around. So no problem if you arrive early that morning, or even if you wanted to arrive the night prior and get settled in, we can also set that up. So Romy, I don't know if you had a specific time that you needed everybody in by.
No, I was going to suggest that everyone arrive between 11 and 1 p.m. If 3 p.m. is what you can do, that's fine, because I know we have people coming from New Mexico. Albuquerque can be tricky, but other than
party in
that,
Miami the night before.
exactly. So
I have 2 questions. Can you spell the name of the hotel?
The hotel. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you want to go over sort of like, so everyone knows it's not a hotel, it's all of that? Should we go over?
Yes. So this is a great question. So technically, you're staying what is called a casa particular. Particular means private. So there's 2 main reasons we stay in casa particulares. One, for us, is it's a way to generate additional earnings for a small business or a family or an individual, as opposed to putting all of our funds into the hands of the Cuban government. Second reason is, for most U.S. citizens traveling to Cuba under the Support for the Cuban People category or OFAC license that you're all traveling under, you are restricted from doing certain things in Cuba. And typically what you're restricted from doing is anything that is directly with the Cuban government. And all official hotels in Cuba are property of the Cuban government. They might have a foreign investor, like you'll see a lot of Melia's, which is a Spanish hotel chain. You'll see those hotels there. They're investors, they make money in it as well, but the Cuban government is the ultimate person who owns that. And the United States will not let its citizens stay in government hotels, particularly under the category of visa that we are traveling under. So Casa Particulares are amazing. In Viñales, which is the countryside, they are going to feel a little bit more like a homestay. So for those of you who've maybe traveled and you've stayed in someone's home, it's a little bit more like that. You still have your own room with a private entrance. You have your own bathroom, which is ensuite. And typically the rooms at the casas in Viñales are still a little bit separated from the family's rooms, either by like a corridor area, or you still have some bit of privacy, but it's going to be basic in terms of the decorations, clean, but definitely more of kind of a 3-star experience in Viñales, but it's offset by very warm and friendly host and delicious breakfast. And then in Havana, it started out like that, where it was more like, oh, we're going to rent a couple rooms in our house out to travelers to make money, once that became something that Cubans were allowed to do. And it has morphed into these privately owned properties that had been turned into kind of like boutique hotels with anywhere from maybe 4 to 8 rooms. So where you're going to be staying at in Havana is definitely going to be nicer, in just terms of the quality and the decorations and beautiful architecture in Havana. And you're going to be in houses of, like I said, 4 to 6 rooms, everyone with their own room, everyone with their own bedroom. There's going to usually be a communal group breakfast that serves in a dining room or on a terrace. So that's going to feel much more like a bed and breakfast than like a hotel, but it is not technically a hotel, and it is by no means like a resort hotel with a huge lobby. It's smaller boutique properties, really friendly host. You guys will most likely be the only people in that house, because we've set aside a couple different houses for your group specifically. So it's unlikely you'll even have other travelers. Although sometimes it can be fun to meet other travelers at breakfast as well. So yeah, you can expect very comfortable accommodations and very beautiful accommodations in Havana, and in Viñales, simple but charming accommodations.
Chelsea, can you share a picture of
Yeah,
the
let
one you reserved
me,
for us? If you can.
yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen.
Cheryl, did you have another question?
Is there any airport that does fly direct? Does JFK fly direct to Havana?
I don't believe so.
I'm
When I
trying to
look-
remember
We all go out of
pre-pandemic,
Miami.
New York-
maybe.
I'm sorry.
Pre-pandemic, possibly, but I believe right now everything routes through either Houston, Atlanta, Tampa, Miami. Miami is the one with the most options. Outside of those major airports, I can't think of anywhere. I think there's an airport in maybe South Carolina that might have a direct flight, but there's not a ton of cities that fly directly into Havana.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. I'm going to pull this up. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm gonna actually get you a better representation. Here, I'll just show you the website for one of the houses that we use often and that we have for you guys here, just to give you an idea. Stairs are a big thing in Cuba, in Havana, and elevators are not a big thing in Havana. So be prepared to have some stairs. Typically at hotels, we try to make it no more than one flight up, because oftentimes the ground floor is not, it's not rooms. So this is just kind of gives you an idea of what the exterior of all of the buildings in Havana looks like. And then this is a look here inside Casa Vitrales, which is one of my personal favorite casas. So a lot of these homes have been restored. These pictures are not here. So this is one. So you're going to have like the tall windows. Many of the rooms are going to have a little balcony. These are very nice bathrooms for Cuba. You still are going to be putting the toilet paper in the basket, not in the toilet. So that's a good rule. Basket, never in the toilet. But this is just to give you an idea of what your rooms are going to be like there in Havana. And in Viñales, they are a little bit more simple, really charming. All of the houses in Viñales have front porches, and everybody just hangs out in rocking chairs on their front porches. It's really fun to just be in that space. But let me see if I can pull up for you a couple pictures. So yeah, this is here in Havana. All of this is Havana.
Work a million bottles.
I drank the water one place. So yeah, the houses in Viñales are small like this. I've actually found though that the water pressure and temperature in Viñales tends to be really nice. The little porches and the rooms are basic. You're gonna have your bed, 2 beds for those of you who need 2 beds. But they will provide, you know, fresh linens, fresh towels, pillows, air conditioning, which you're gonna really want to have in all of Cuba, even though you're going during a really nice time weather-wise, you're gonna want to have AC. So you're gonna have everything that you need. You're gonna have a little mini fridge in your room where there will be waters and beers that you can take and drink if you are feeling dehydrated or just want a good drink. So yeah, that's a look into where you'll be staying. Did you guys have other questions?
Chelsea, can you go over the itinerary?
Yeah, definitely. Romy, do you have the version if you want to
Mm,
pull it up?
Okay, hold on here. What I have up is our,
Cuba Libre in Cuba or like faux pas.
Oh, we should ask that question. You can ask.
What's
Yeah.
the question? Tell
That's it.
me. We can hear you.
Go tell him.
I was being sassy. I said you order a Cuba Libre in Cuba, or will that get you in trouble?
Oh, great question. So Cuba Libre is definitely an oxymoron for most Cubans, right? But they know what it means. You could also just say like rum and Coke. If you want to fit in with the locals, though, you should just drink it neat. Just nothing.
rum?
Just rum it up. That's how we do it in Cuba.
Way to twist my arm.
So you're gonna, and by no means do you guys need to drink all the time if you don't want to, but you can, and people will offer you alcohol pretty frequently throughout the day in Cuba. It's just, there's pina coladas for sale everywhere. It's a part of culture. There was actually a long period of time where in the ration, and you guys are going to learn about what the ration is, and your guide Paloma, she'll even show you her ration card because it's all handwritten, because Cuba has not digitalized almost any of their systems, so everything is handwritten. It looks like it's from like the 50s. It's this little piece of paper that basically says, like, based on how many people are in your home and the ages of those people, you are entitled to 6 eggs a month per person, or a pound of rice every 2 weeks, and you have your ration card. And a lot of people think that these items are free, and they're not free. They're just incredibly subsidized. I mean, literally cents, but you have to go and wait in a very long line at a ration store, and you take your ration card and you say, these are the things that I want from my ration. And they say, great, we only have 2 of the 5 items that you want. But here they are. And then you give the small amount of money because of the government subsidization for those items. And so there was a time where in the ration, rum and cigars and cigarettes were a part of the ration. Like, we don't have chicken for you, but we've got rum and cigarettes. So don't be angry. And now that's no longer included in the ration, but up until maybe less than 10 years ago, you would find those things in your ration in Cuba. So rum is a big part of life in Cuba, and so is tobacco. It's not unusual for people to be smoking tobacco even in like indoor outdoor restaurants. If you are sensitive to that, please let us know so that we can be strategic and, you know, where we eat or what part of the restaurant we're in. But you will see that just alcohol and cigarettes are around in Cuba, and they are a pretty integral part of social interaction in Cuba, for better or for worse, but it's a lot of fun.
All right, Chelsea, I think I have the correct version up, which I will share. I may have not have the right one. I'm having a hard time getting it up to load, but anyway, it's going to be very, very close.
Yeah, this looks like the right one.
So our day 1 is our arrival. And Chelsea, I don't know if you want to you're probably better at it than me.
Yeah. If you just want to scroll down a little bit. So yeah, day 1, like I said, arrive whenever you can. We'll get everybody's flight information from Romy, and you will have Emmanuel, who is this handsome young man here, or another person from our team waiting for you when you exit the airport with a sign with your name on it. So you'll have somebody who speaks English waiting to pick you up at the airport. And then you will cruise in a classic car to Havana Vieja, which is about 25-minute ride from the airport. And then you will get settled into your house, and we will have a complete list of who's staying in which casita once the group has been closed, and we'll add that in. But again, all of the casas that we will put you in are going to be on the same street, and we'll have kind of a central meeting point, and the people are really, really nice at all of these casas, super helpful. So then after you get all checked in, I believe you guys have a salsa class, but I want when you close out, I'll see.
I know my computer is just being super slow. Sorry.
No worries.
Go to day 2.
You just have to X out of the images, and then it will.
Okay, it's just my Zoom thing is on the way there. Here we go. Okay, here we go.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, then you guys have a salsa class. So what we'll do is we will walk from where you're staying at to a place called La Casa del Son, and we will have a Cuban salsa class. There will be mojitos available if you want to have a little liquid courage. Again, if you don't want to, that's fine. We can make you a mocktail version, but drinks are always available. And then we will do a salsa class, which is really fun. The first half, everyone's in a group with the instructor, but then for the second half, we actually all get paired with our own instructor, and you get to really actually learn some moves. So this is really, really fun. Then we will hop in the BC taxis, which are the little taxis that people are riding the bikes on, and they will take us to Yarini Havana, where we will have welcome dinner. This is an awesome restaurant. We do have to go up some stairs to get there, but it is worth it for the view and the food. So you'll have a really lovely dinner there. And for anybody who wants to go out on night 1, there's always a place to go for a nightcap, and your tour leaders are always happy to accompany you out. So even if you want to stay out until 3 o'clock in the morning, there will be somebody available to stay out with you if you would like them to. We want you to have fun, and we want you to be safe. So nightcaps are always just, you guys can decide in the moment where you want to go, and there's someone who's ready and eager to take you. Then the next day, we will do a walking tour of Havana Vieja. We will use BC taxis if it's feeling like it's a long day, or if the pace isn't super fast and we need to move, like cover larger ground at any point in time. And we'll just hop in BC taxis, but this is designed to be mostly a walking tour of the old town, old Havana. Paloma will be doing this tour for you. She's incredible, and she's going to give you just kind of an introduction to overall Cuba history, to kind of put things in place. What was Cuba like prior to the arrival of the Spaniards? What was the time as a Spanish colony like? What happened once Cuba got its independence from Spain? So approximately the last 120 years. What's been going on in Cuba? That for me is probably the most interesting part of Cuba's history, is its modern history. So you're going to get to talk about the general timeline of Cuba. And like I said, this is a day where Paloma will also talk to you about the ration card and answer a lot of people's most burning questions about Cuba. Then we will have fun and get interactive with our friends by playing domino at our friend's house and having lunch there. So this is really fun because domino is a very, 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 very iconic part, like emblematic of Cuban life. People love to play domino. You start playing domino as a child. Anytime that I'm in Cuba with my husband, the last night before we leave, like 20, 30, 40 friends come over to his parents' house. We find stools, we find pieces of wood, people sit and make chairs, and we play domino, and we drink rum, and we eat fried plantain chips until the morning. So we're gonna do a modified version of that during the daytime, and you'll get to have a
Plantains. He's
traditional
okay with plantains.
play domino and hang out. Then you'll have siesta. So we've built in siestas. It can be quite hot in Cuba. It's going to be better at the end of January than it is during the summer months. But still, we like to build in some time if you want to take a nap, if you want to take a second shower of the day, whatever you want to do, a little siesta. Then we're going to go on a street art tour, which is really cool because we actually get to go with the artist himself, Fichu, who you can see there, and his manager, Pedro, who's actually a Cuban actor. He does like quite a few, he's been on quite a few Cuban like telenovelas and like crime drama series. And so Pedro and Ficho are really cool. They're linked into the art world in Cuba, and they take us on an approximately hour to an hour and a half tour through Havana, where you get to see the progression of Fichu's work, and then also learn about like what are some of the challenges that he faces as an artist. And one of the big ones is that they just don't have access to basic supplies to do art. And then they're also very restricted in how they can sell their art, who they can sell their art to, how much they can sell their art for. And so that is something that he will talk a little bit more about. I don't want to give everything away. As you're going through that tour, when the tour ends, you will end at the place where you're going to have dinner that night. But before you have dinner, you're going to make some Cuban cocktails with my father-in-law, Jorge Luis. Again, mocktails available if you don't want to have any liquor, but he will make cocktails with you. So I'll show you how to make. He usually does 3 different types of Cuban cocktails. And then we have a concert going on in the background with our friends from Legal Mood Vibration, which is this great band. And after we've made cocktails and listened to music, we sit down and we have dinner, and Fichu and Pedro, as well as the musicians and my father-in-law, will sit down and have dinner with you. And we kind of like to just keep this conversation going about what is it like to be an artist or a musician or any type of creative in Cuba. They don't all speak English, but there are going to be guides there who can translate for you. And so I really encourage people to lean into this opportunity to get to talk and meet Cuban artists and learn about their experience. So it's a super fun night. And if you do want to buy small pieces of Feature's artwork, or if you know ahead of time that you want to bring something down to support the musicians, they are often looking for guitar picks and strings and like very basic materials for their instruments. So if you are interested at all, let me know. I'd be happy to give you more information about that. Let's see, on day 3, you will head to Viñales. I love Viñales. It's very different from Havana. Havana is chaos. It's the big city. It's alive 24/7. It's all this stuff going on. Viñales is quiet. It's countryside. It's peaceful. It's beautiful. It's about a 2.5, 3-hour drive to get there. We'll make stops along the way for bathroom break, coffee stop, pina colada if you'd like. And then I think you guys are stopping at Las Terrazas on your way, which is a national park that's not quite halfway there between. Yeah, so you guys are gonna go to Las Terrazas. Here there's options to do some hiking, to do a little boat ride. They have a zip line. So it's just to break up the drive and give you guys an opportunity to see some of the outdoor spaces that Cuba has to offer. And then from Las Terrazas, you'll continue on and you'll get to Viñales. Viñales is a major, we'll have lunch here at Las Terrazas before we continue. Viñales is in the province of Pinar del Rio, and this is one of the primary tobacco growing regions in Cuba. So this, like, tobacco farming is the primary source of income in this area, along with coffee farms and a few other things. But it's actually interesting in Cuba, even to sell your produce in a province that's not yours is highly regulated. So the main driver of the economy here is tobacco production and tourism as well. What you will learn about the way that the Cuban tobacco industry works is that the farmers are given land and a couple of oxen to use to work the land. So you're going to see almost no tractors or like mechanical really things in Viñales, maybe a couple things on the way in, but pretty much everything is done by hand or with animals. And 90% of the tobacco production is sold to the Cuban government at a ridiculously low price, right? And then the Cuban farmers are allowed to keep 10% for personal consumption. From that personal consumption, they typically will sell hand-rolled cigars to travelers, and that generates more income for them than the 90% that they sell to the Cuban government does. So this is an opportunity for you to learn about tobacco, to try cigars, and to purchase them if you'd like. There are some restrictions in terms of what you can bring back as far as cigar and rums to Cuba, and it could be different by January. So as we get closer to your departure, I will send Romy an update that she can share with you. As of right now, you are not able to bring back any rum that is like bottled and branded by the government. So almost all of it. Cigars, it's gray as to whether or not you can take home the cigars from the farm. Most of our travelers buy 5 or 10 cigars direct from the farmers and bring them into the United States with no problem. If you had a box of like 50 Coibas, which is a Cuban government brand, that's not going to go over very well at customs and
You
immigration.
will smoke there and then be done.
So you could also just smoke them there, but I'm a slight rule breaker, and I definitely have 10 Cuban cigars like in my desk drawer here with me. So it can be done. And like I said, most people run into no problems. I think we've had maybe over the years, like 1 or 2 people where they've just taken their cigars and nothing beyond that. So a bummer, but not going to get you in any serious trouble either. So I would say purchase at your own risk. But I will keep you updated on if there's been any official adjustments to policy before the trip. In Viñales, we do have the option if people want to bring donations to Cuba. So a lot of people ask about this, and you will see more of this once you're there in Cuba, but there is a lot of need, even oftentimes in Cuba, when you have the money to purchase something as simple as a razor or deodorant or tampons or Band-Aids. They might not be readily available, or they are being sold on the black market at astronomical prices. So if you have space in your suitcase and you have it in your heart to bring things that we could donate, we typically will distribute, we'll take all of the donations with us to Viñales, where our team is really linked into the community and the surrounding towns. And they typically will help to organize the donations, and they won't necessarily even give everything out right away to different families. What they do in most of these towns in Cuba is they have WhatsApp groups, and it'll be like WhatsApp group Viñales, like zone 1. And people will say like, I'm looking for diapers. And then our host Jenny will go, I've got diapers in my inventory here, and she'll coordinate to get that item to the people who need it when they need it. And we have put together a list of what are some of the things that are commonly useful. Truly, there's really nothing that isn't needed and appreciated in Cuba. So feel free to bring stuff. We mostly suggest things that are either like educational stuff for kids, or personal care stuff, basic things. Even getting something like Tylenol can be really challenging in Cuba, and there's not a problem for you to bring in. If you go to Costco and get like a big thing of Tylenol, some of these more simple medications, those are really easy and super, super appreciated in Cuba.
He's taking all that deep breaths out there. Is that like a moose?
That.
Okay, then you have your Cuban pig roast. This night is very fun. So you will be hanging out at my friend Jovi and Rene's family farm. It's got a beautiful view. We'll have music. We'll obviously have the pig roast. If you don't eat pork, we have the option to do other things as well. If you want to get involved in cooking the pork, if you want to hang out in the kitchen with Mamita's awesome. She usually makes all of like the side dishes. We will just hang out here, have the place to ourselves, and this can be a couple hours, or it can be till whenever you guys want into the night. It's your space to enjoy with the team there, and yeah, it's a really, really fun night. Then the next day you will horseback ride, or if you don't want a horseback ride, you can do a hike through Viñales Valley. I recommend horseback riding, even if you're not a avid rider. The horses are really used to this job, but they're incredibly well cared for. Our guide here, his name is Josbel. He's actually a veterinarian, and he's got so much knowledge of the flora and fauna in this area. And he's got wonderful horses. So it's just a little bit more pleasurable, in my opinion, to go on the horseback riding. The hike wouldn't be difficult, but there's a couple parts of the terrain that is a little rocky. So you just have to sit on the horse. They know where to go. So you can horseback ride or hike, and that's going to be going to a tobacco farm where you will have lunch and have a more complete explanation on tobacco as well as coffee. This is Alejandro. He is moving to Spain, so he might not be there, but I'm sure his brother or his cousin will be able to still give us a great tour, but he's just getting ready to move from Cuba. This is Rene. You're going to meet Rene. He's really amazing. He's one of our main guys on the ground in Viñales, and so you'll be seeing him and his partner Yovi throughout your time there. You'll also get to stop for guarapo, which is like fresh sugarcane juice, and so you'll see how they use the trapiche to like express all of the juice out of the sugarcane, and you can try that. And then we have a dinner that evening at another organic farm, which is more of like a restaurant. The night before is really like a party at a home. This is at a restaurant, but it's a beautiful spot. It's got this really cool organic farm and it's up above on the hill. And so it's just a really, really nice place for dinner. Then the next day, you're going to go off the beaten path to Cayo Jutias, which is a beautiful beach that not a lot of people actually make it to when they go to Cuba. It is, like I said, a little bit of an off the beaten path drive from Viñales, but it is well worth it. It's a beautiful beach, very pristine, pretty much no development apart from like one little wooden building where you can get some food. The guides will take care of everything. We'll make sure you have towels. We'll make sure that you have chairs on the beach. We'll make sure that you have your food, your water, all of that stuff. You'll go on a little boat ride. You'll get to go to Starfish Beach where you can see starfish. Please don't touch them, but you can admire them. And they'll do a fun lobster grill for you on the beach. So this is like a relax, have fun day. And then that evening when you get back, it's a free evening. There are some really cute little restaurants in town in Viñales. One in particular that I'll make sure Romy knows to consider if you guys do want to do a group dinner. Otherwise, people can enjoy as they'd like. The next morning, there's an optional hike for people who want to get up early and see the sunrise. It's a very fun hike. You start out, it starts out very flat and you're under the stars, and if it's clear, the stars are incredible. You get to hear the farm animals waking up. Then there is about 30 minutes on this hike. So the first half hour is like flat, and then there's half an hour where you're going up. So I would say, becomes moderately strenuous at that point. From what I can see, I think pretty much everybody in here would be fine. Just something to keep in mind. The guides are always there to help you. And then once you get up there, you get to see the sunrise. We have breakfast and it's awesome. This could probably be a really cool place to do like a yoga class or some type of anything you guys want to do. It's beautiful. And the breakfast here is really, really delicious. And then you would return to Havana later that morning or early afternoon. And usually what we do is as soon as we get into town, we just go to have lunch and then we get checked into our casas. We're very flexible though. If you guys wanted to stay later in Viñales and move this around a little bit, that's something that once you're there on the ground, Romy and Manuel will be able to take care of. But La Lamparilla is a really fun restaurant, great food, a really fun staff. So hope that you enjoy your lunch there. And then that evening, you'll do a cooking class. So you can learn. And this is another example of one of the other casas that we use, Casa Cuarteles. It's very close to Casa Vitrales. So most likely some of you will be in Vitrales and some will be in Cuarteles. You'll do cooking class up on a rooftop. You'll get to learn how to make probably ropa vieja, which is a really popular Cuban dish, but it could be really anything. And again, Romy or the group can let us know if they have something specific that they want to make or any dietary restrictions. Day 7 is your classic car tour. So this is kind of your iconic drive around. You will have been in many classic cars at this point, but this is the day that you get to get in like the pimped out, fancy convertibles that are really sweet. So great for photos. And it's also nice because it gets you out to a couple other parts of Havana that aren't old Havana. So you get to go to the Havana Forest, which you can see here. You'll go across the bay and you get to see a view looking back at Havana. You'll get to visit one of the fortresses that they've built back in the colonial time. So it allows you to just see more of Havana than you will have seen previously. This is a very hot day. Wear a hat, sunglasses, sunscreen, bring your waters. We'll make sure to refill your waters. Then we're going to visit a recycling project. It could be the same one with Yuri, although this one is currently on pause. There's another project there's 2 other really cool projects that we just started working with. One is a group of women that makes menstrual cups, which is actually incredible, like out of recycled materials, which is awesome because there's a lack of access to feminine hygiene products in Cuba. And so it's like this very sustainable way, and you're supporting a small business, and it's just really, really cool. And then there's this other woman that we've been working with where she is a glass blower and she's like creating really cool things out of glass. And that never, like 5 years ago, there's no way that would have even been a viable career option for anybody. So it's just really cool to see these examples of private business and entrepreneurship outside of the direct tourist section where it's been most popular. And then you'll have dinner that night at El Cocinero, which is beautiful restaurant. And it's on this cool rooftop and it's right next to La Fábrica de Arte Cubano. Has anybody heard of La Fábrica de Arte Cubano? Okay, so it's the factory of Cuban art. La Fábrica de Arte Cubano, we usually just call it La Fábrica. La Fábrica used to be literally an old oil factory, I think. Something, I don't know, actually, I could be wrong on that, but it was a factory. And Cocinero is right next to it. And then La Fac has been turned into this multimedia art space slash bar slash nightclub. So you go in to La Fábrica and there's like a photo, there's art galleries where you have more like photography, where you have painting. Then there's like a small acoustic theater area. There's a black and white like cinema area with black and white films. There's like you go downstairs and it's more like DJ music, and a lot of times they do like even dance classes. They have a theater area. It changes like every night at La Fábrica is a little bit different, but it's basically all of these different mediums of art. And then there's like bars scattered throughout the place. It's really fun. I would definitely say going on the earlier side is better because it can get quite crowded later at night. Again, this is something where if some people want to just after dinner stroll through La Fábrica and have a drink and call it an earlier night and go home, we'll have people who can get you home safely. And if other people want to stay until closing and shut it down at 3 o'clock, that's also fine too. It's completely up to you guys. But this is a night that starts off appreciating art and talking about art and enjoying art, and then it can continue on to whatever you want it to be as the night goes on. But it's really cool. And one of the things I love about this is seeing how many young people, like young Cubans, go to a place or yeah, like they're drinking, they're having fun, but there is this appreciation for art because art in Cuba is the area where there's the most room for expression. And so art is really, really important to people in Cuba. And oftentimes the different types of art that you can see at La Fábrica will have political messaging that is not always super obvious. And so it's really cool because your Cuban guides can explain like this, what they're trying to say is this, but they can't say this. So they did this. And it's just really, really interesting to see. And it's a lot of fun. And so you might be hungover on your flight home. I feel like a couple of you might be a little hungover on your flight home on Saturday. So maybe book a later flight if you don't want to have to get up too early after La Fábrica. And yeah, that is your trip to Cuba in a nutshell. Do you guys have any questions?
It's amazing. I remember being at La Fábrica having a blast. It was really a great cultural experience. And I felt super safe too.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people. Yeah.
And what we do is we have somebody from our team. There's a little bar on the first floor that has an outdoor patio because a lot of people in Cuba smoke. So including your tour guides, they won't smoke around you, but you'll see them probably on their break sometimes catching a smoke. So they'll be hanging out in that patio area. So there will always be somebody that's there. So if at any point, like you guys divide off and you're doing your thing, if you need something, if you're ready to go, whatever you need, you can just go to that patio area and there will be a person there that can help you. Also, what's cool about La Fábrica is they give you a little ticket, and then anytime you go to order something, they just mark it and you don't have to pay it until you leave. So you pay your bill at the end. Don't lose your ticket because then they charge you like a flat rate that is more than what you will probably spend. But it's nice. You don't have to be pulling out your wallet all night. You can deal with payment at the end. And because it can get pretty busy in there if you stay later into the night.
Chelsea, is there an opportunity to do laundry during the week?
There is an opportunity to do laundry. The best place would be in Havana. So just because in Viñales,
is there a chance that you would drop your laundry off or somebody would do your laundry?
it would be at the same casas, and typically some of them might charge by piece, but oftentimes you just give them a bag and they'll charge it by pound. And what's nice is in Havana, they'll be able to wash it and dry it. They have dryers there. In Vinales, typically they're going to have to hang it up to dry, which is fine, except for if you do run into any rain or whatever, it's not, you know, it might not dry in time and you're only there for those 2 nights. So I would think that your best bet would be to, when you get back from Vinales, to, like, as soon as you get back, have them do your laundry, or the first day in Vinales.
Got it.
But,
Thank
like, I
you.
don't know if I would do it on the second day in Vinales, just because it might be humid and you would have to pack it, and that might not be ideal. But yes, they can
Yep.
definitely do laundry.
Chelsea, what's the currency and can we use credit cards?
Great question. Okay. There used to be 2 currencies. There's now only 1 currency, which is the Cuban peso. But unlike a few years ago, US dollars are actually circulating widely on the island, and it's legal to use US dollars to pay for things. There are 2 exchange rates in Cuba. There is the government official exchange rate. You do not ever want to change your money through the government, because they will give you approximately 25 Cuban pesos for every US dollar. If you exchange your Cuban pesos on the quote unquote black market, which we will do it for you, you just say, I want to exchange $100, and Manuel will get you your money. That rate fluctuates more, but it's anywhere usually between 160 to 220 Cuban pesos for each US dollar. Don't ask me why. I don't know. The Cubans also are like, they don't know. I mean, the reality is that in the private sector, people want dollars, right? Because outside of Cuba, Cuban peso is worthless to them, and a US dollar is incredibly valuable on the global economy. So they want dollars. People want dollars in Cuba right now. So you don't even necessarily need to exchange a lot of your money into Cuban pesos, because a lot of places will take dollars for you. You might get a little bit of a better deal financially if you exchange them into Cuban pesos at a good rate through us and then pay in Cuban pesos, but it's going to be pretty minimal difference. And so many of your meals are already included in this trip, so you won't be having to pay for a whole lot of stuff. But yes, you can pay with US dollars pretty much anywhere, or you can exchange your US dollars into Cuban pesos through us. You cannot use a credit card or an ATM or any type of bank card if it's issued from a US bank. If you have a Canadian bank account or a bank account from another country, it might work, but US cards will not work.
So bring your cash and just small bills.
Yeah, for exchanging money, I mean, ideally 20s are great. Above a 20, it depends. We can take a 20 and exchange it into money, but a lot of restaurants would maybe not be able to take more than a 20, just because there's not a lot of, it's hard for them to give the change back. So 20s are great. How often will we have access, Wi-Fi access? I see this in the chat. Great question. You will have much better access to the internet in Cuba than it used to be, but it's still not going to be like what you're used to at home. So your phones are not going to just be connected all the time to data. Cubans now in Cuba can get a data plan on their phone and have data that works pretty well. It's pretty reliable. So if you ever really urgently need to check something, your tour guide could give you, either lend you their phone or hotspot you internet. But when you're just walking around, you're not going to just have messages coming on your phone, because your phone's not going to be connected to anything. At the casas, there will be Wi-Fi available and it's free. They will help you get connected to it. Set your expectations pretty low for speed, but for checking emails, sending a couple WhatsApp messages or messages to family, you should be fine. Maybe even post onto your Instagram, but you're not going to be able to really stream anything. And there are some websites that you won't be able to get onto without a VPN. So anytime I'm working in Cuba, if I have to do something with my bank or anything affiliated to like a business in the US, I will oftentimes need to put a VPN on. So if you are planning to do something like that for work, just know that if you have a VPN, it would make your life a lot easier. Lots of times restaurants will have Wi-Fi available, but again, we really want you guys to put the phone down and experience Cuba and connect with each other. That's one of the things I've always loved so much about Cuba. But it is getting a lot easier to have access. So you will see Wi-Fi in restaurants, and it will be in your casas.
Romy, is there a yoga piece attached to this, or is it primarily a cultural trip?
Always, yes. We will have opportunities to have movement, depending on our itinerary, usually before in the morning, and there are some spaces available at, go ahead, Chelsea, I think.
Yeah, so we
Samantha.
will make sure that there is space available for anytime that Romy wants to lead a class, of course. So mornings are a great option before it gets too hot, or later even in the evenings when it's cooled down a bit. So yeah, there, be it a covered terrace or at the same place where you did your salsa class, we can rent out a space there. A lot of times the classes will have a large living room that we can clear out. So there will be spaces to be able to do yoga and to do it, the sunrise yoga. I love that. So hopefully you guys can do something there as well that morning in Vinales.
Once we kind of really know our numbers and we put the itinerary together, I will share it. But I always try to incorporate some kind of movement daily.
Thank you.
I see a question here. What is the customs process returning to the US in Miami? It is typically pretty smooth sailing for most people. You just go through customs like usual. They will most likely say like, oh, like, what did you do? I went to Cuba. What were you doing there? And you want to say, I went to Cuba under support for the Cuban people, and I was on a cultural immersion tour. And that should be fine. Typically, people aren't asked anything beyond that. You will have your itinerary, and I would recommend having either a printed out copy or having it easily accessible on your phone in case anybody wants to know more. You could say, this is the itinerary, this is what I did, this is where I stayed. Again, people are typically not running into any issues just re-entering the United States from Cuba. You are allowed to go to Cuba legally as a US citizen in the way that you're going, so you should not have any issues. They will likely ask you, do you have any rum or cigars? And your answer should be no, as of now.
Pen in each pocket. One for you, sir.
Don't do that in Houston. I had a very bad experience entering Houston with my Cuban 16-year-old brother-in-law who was given a humanitarian visa to come live with us, and it was not fun. So don't go through Houston if you can avoid it. They in Miami, thousands of people come in to Miami every day from Havana, and it's not a problem. So I would say if you can fly through Miami, it's probably best in terms of just a smooth travel experience.
Do we need any bug spray or anything like that? Are bugs an issue?
I have not personally really found bugs to be a huge issue, but if you are somebody who tends to get bitten a little bit more, you are going to be in a warmer, humid environment in the tropics. So take it with you because you will not be able to find it easily in Cuba. Usually though, a lot of airlines, I don't think let you do the aerosol. So it would be like a rub or just like a spray, but not an aerosol. And that any type of medication that you need or could foresee yourself needing, as simple as cough medicine to Advil to like a Pepto, bring it, because there's no such thing as a CVS where you can just go in and get whatever you want in Cuba. So anything that is like for yourself that you could see yourself needing, shampoo, sunscreen, personal hygiene stuff, cosmetic, like all of that, bring it. You won't necessarily need it though. Everyone's skin looks great in Cuba. It's humid, it's hot. You're gonna be sweating anyways. So I don't recommend putting on a full face of makeup. It's just gonna sweat right off. Like you don't need a whole lot. It's warm. So you might want to bring like a light sweater, a light jacket, just in case it's a little bit chilly in the evenings, or in Vinales, it can be a little bit cooler, but you're not gonna be cold in Cuba and you're not gonna need a lot of layers of clothing.
And then what about so cameras? Obviously people are going to bring cameras and take photos. I guess I'm asking, I have like a professional camera and I'm debating as to whether or not bringing something like that is worthwhile, or if it's just too much of a kind of sticks out like a sore thumb and too much of an issue.
Doesn't necessarily stick out like a sore thumb. We have a girl on my team who she goes to Cuba all the time, and she's a professional photographer, and she usually has one camera with her. Sometimes I think she's brought in two. And then we have had other people on trips who've brought professional equipment down. I have just a short blurb on the official like rules about cameras and stuff. I will get it to Romy so she can get it to you. But if it's just your one camera that you want to take for your personal photos and stuff, you shouldn't have any issues. You are not supposed to take pictures directly of government officials or like military buildings. is the only thing to keep in mind. Again, I've never had anybody have any issues, but I just want to put it out there. The rule is like, don't go up to a policeman and take his photo.
Sure. Cool.
There will possibly be a time where if you guys are out and about, mostly this applies to like on the streets of Old Havana. And if you guys have a question that comes up, if your guide says, that's a great question, let's talk about that a little bit later. That is code for, I really want to give you my truthful answer, but there might be somebody near me who I shouldn't say it in front of. And so I just ask that you be respectful of that, and they will bring it up again, like at dinner or in a different environment. But the guides do feel the need to not speak too forthcomingly in like certain parts of Havana where there is a lot more police presence, because they don't want to have any issues for themselves or for you guys. So they're not going to necessarily give you a detailed answer on how they feel about communism when they're out on a walking tour. They will be willing to talk about that in a private space. Any other questions?
Romy probably passed it along, but I am celiac / gluten free. So for you made a comment about meals like a half an hour ago.
Yes. So, and that will all be information that I'll have. Romy will get me everybody's any type of allergy, restriction, preference, any of that kind of stuff. And the Cuba team will have that ahead of time. We've had people with different dietary restrictions and preferences. I'm trying to think. I'm feeling ignorant right now because you're gonna have a lot of beans. That'll be fine. Rice is fine, right?
Yep, rice is fine.
Yeah. So you're gonna have a lot of rice, a lot of beans. There's gonna be pork is very prevalent as a protein, along with seafood and chicken. Beef is a little bit less common. Fresh fruits you're gonna have access to. And vegetables, more so in Viñales. In Havana, you're not gonna usually see like a delicious grilled asparagus, except for maybe at like some of your dinners that are a little bit fancier. But at lunchtime, it's gonna be rice, beans, root vegetables, Cubans. Yeah, plantains. Cubans love like sweet potatoes, taro, any kind of like root vegetable, yuca. So there really is not a whole lot of like pastas and bread. So you should be pretty good there. Anything else?
Well, feel free to, send along any questions that come up for you. If you want to join us, please sign up as soon as possible, so you can take advantage of the flights. And again, I'll confirm hours tomorrow by another email. If you have any questions, please reach out. If I cannot answer them, Chelsea is a pro. She's such an expert, and I'm just really glad that we're going to be in great hands.
You guys are going to have a great time. Cuba is beautiful. January is a great time of year to go, and you're going towards the end of January, so it won't be as crowded, which will be great. You might even catch the last few days of the Cuban Jazz Festival, which is cool. I think it might just be ending, but it might be fun if you do get in on day one a little early to check something out. But there's just always something interesting and fun to see or do in Cuba. So I know that you guys will have a great time. The team on the ground in Cuba is amazing, and we're just here to support you and make sure that you have a great trip. So if you need anything, reach out to Romy, and anything that she can't take care of immediately, I'll make sure to assist her, and yeah, you're going to have a great time.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Yeah, of course. Thank you all. Muy bien. I know it's late for a lot of you, so gracias
Thank you for your time. Appreciate you.
Thank you, all of you. And I don't know if I'm going to be in Cuba during your trip, but you guys seem like a really fun group. So now I might have to extend my stay a little bit longer so I can hang out.
Awesome. Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Feliz noche.
All right.